Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Sofa Summit 3. It's the third one we've done during lockdown, and I think as we're easing out of lockdown, we're going to carry on running these as just part of our education piece that we do at Technology Management. Thank you very much for joining us. I know some people have been on previous sessions that kicked off around about 9:30 this morning, and then we've got a few more going on throughout the day. What we try to do is find other third parties that complement what we do with Dynamics. So we don't want to go and reinvent the wheel when there's a fantastic product already out there that would deliver the solution that a lot of companies are looking for. And we've been working with Podfather for probably 18 months now. And I think over the last 3 or 4 months since we've gone into lockdown and COVID, and businesses have had to look at the issues that they're facing, Podfather's really come to the forefront again. We've always worked with them and done that, but as businesses have started to pivot and become agile and maybe not have their normal routes or their channels for sales, they've had to find different ways. And so we've had organizations that have need to take out the middleman and almost go direct, because if they were retail, then the stores have been closed. We work with a lot of food organizations where restaurants weren't open for them to provide their goods to. And so some of those organizations started saying, okay, we need to go directly to maybe service people where they've normally been B2B. They're going now business to consumer. They may be shipping direct to people. And obviously the systems we could probably do to help them get that stuff out, but then they need to make sure that goods and those services were being delivered. They had proof of that, and so on and so forth. And so Podfather again really came out. They've got this fantastic solution that they're going to run through with you in a few moments. And so from our point of view, we love to work with best of breed products, best of breed applications. And so we thought today for one of the sessions that we would do, we'd give a half an hour to Podfather to really showcase what they can bring to the business, what they can overcome the challenges that many businesses are facing right now, and in a really nice and cool looking app as well. So I'm going to hand over to Mike, who's going to lead the demo. It was quite a popular session, so I want him to get as much time as possible. So I'll hand over to Mike. It is being recorded, so we will send those links out to everybody. I hope everyone can hear. If you can't, I'm sure someone will make me aware of it. If you're using Teams, you do have the ability, just where you mute and unmute yourself, there's a little conversation. There's like a speech bubble on the little bar, which pops up a conversation view down the right-hand side. So if there's any questions, feel free to type them in there. But I'm sure at the end, if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions at the end, you can do, or you can raise your hand in Teams as well if there's something that's really pressing. Well, I'll hand over to Mike and I'll let him start the demo. Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Liam. Good morning, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for signing up for today's session. In the next 30 minutes, I'm going to give you an overview of Podfather and what we do. So just to introduce myself, I'm Mike Partington. I'm the sales manager here at Podfather. Been here now for about 3 years. My background is very much in logistics technology. Also joining me on today's call are Jane Geary, marketing manager at Podfather, and Colin McCready, managing director at Podfather. So quick bit of housekeeping. I'm assuming you can all hear me, as Lee mentioned earlier, and you can see my screen. I've got 30 minutes today where I'm going to tell you a bit about who we are and give you a high-level demonstration of how the system works. I welcome any questions, but I'd be grateful if you could save those for the Q&A at the end, if possible. So just to give you a brief introduction about Podfather, as a business, we've been providing software solutions to the logistics and construction industries for over 20 years. We specialize in providing software solutions that simplify the complex problem of planning routes, optimizing delivery plans, managing and tracking vehicle movements. Our system is designed in such a way that it can easily integrate into your existing software infrastructure. And as a result of 20 years hard work, we are now proud to be one of the most feature-rich mobile workforce management solutions available today. These are just a small selection of some of the companies we're working with across logistics, construction, healthcare, and field service sectors. At last count, we've been relied upon by over 30,000 users a day. For all of these companies, Podfather is helping to replace paper-based processes and speed the flow of data through each organisation. The system is also proven to cut costs and improve customer service for our growing customer base. We had a client recently reported an £80,000 a year saving, which was great to hear. In summary, this slide shows our core software features, which are varied. I'd like to summarize this by saying that we take the complex process of managing orders, planning routes, executing them, and simplifying it with one easy-to-use cloud-based platform. With a name like Podfather, you'd think we'd specialise in just proof of delivery, but our offering is so much wider, which is what makes us a great choice for companies looking to streamline fleet planning and management processes. We won't go over every element in detail today, but it'll become clear as we go through the demo. A quick word about our relationship with Hetman. As Liam mentioned, been working together now for a couple of years. We have an established integration that has been used by many companies, some of which are listed here. Should you have any questions regarding integration, feel free to contact me after the event, or alternatively speak to your Hetman account manager. So on to the kind of live demonstration. So yeah, everything I'm going to show you now is live. I'm not going to hide behind screenshots or slides. And yeah, any questions you've got, feel free to kind of check them at the end. So first bit about Podfather is integration and getting data from your systems, whether it's Business Central or Nav. Ultimately, we need to get that data from that system into Podfather. Now, when that data comes across, there's a couple of different ways that it can be displayed. Some of you are going to be routing data where you have preset runs or preset routes where you're visiting the same people on the same days, in which case you're going to be passing through pre-routed jobs into Podfather. Podfather is then going to have the ability with those pre-routed jobs. So you can see here on my screen where it's showing you routes 1 to 9. And with those individual routes, what you could then do is make manual amendments to those routes if you wanted to, or use the Podfather tool to optimize them into a more efficient route should you make manual amendments. So that's the first option. The second option is Podfather can be used for taking routes or taking orders from Nav, from Business Central that are unallocated. So you can then use Podfather for the planning and optimization. So let me show you how. So if I just quickly unallocate my hard work. So that now will go over to the left-hand side. Like so. So the way that Podfather works is on the left-hand side here is a list of all unallocated jobs. So they're jobs that come in from your back office system into Podfather automatically. Any one of them can be loaded up. You can see the full details of those orders in terms of where it's going to, everything about the job in terms of delivery, collections, exchanges, drivers' instructions in terms of what they need to know at point of delivery, line by line of product details. So you can see here I've got some stakes, the weight, the quantity. What we can then do is with Podfather, we could manually, if we wanted to, drag and drop jobs onto drivers. So you can see here I've manually dragged that drop onto that driver. It's disappeared from the left, gone straight into the middle, and you can now see from the map, if I just click on this, that I've got my starting point for my first drop. I can take the next drop, and you can now see that I'm starting to essentially build a route manually. If I just take one more, quickly drag and drop it, you can now see that I've got 3 drops on that map, 1, 2, 3. Very easily, I can change the drop order, like so. If I drag and drop, I can then manually drag and drop it onto different drivers if need be, or I can unallocate it by dragging it back into the pot. Okay, so that's the manual way of planning within Podfather. Some of you might find that as the way forward. Others might say, actually, I want to automate that a bit more. In which case, if I just quickly undo my hard work, not that that is very strenuous, over here. Okay, so within Podfather, we have the ability to set up drivers. We also have the ability to set up vehicles. Against vehicles, we can set up things like weight, capacities, volumes, items, and then within the route planner, we can then also add in parameters like waiting for my internet connection to catch up. Things like default drop times. So with your order data, how long does it take for a drop to be completed? If you've got multiple orders going to the same location, how many minutes should they take to do a drop? You've got things like default run start time. So what time should the driver start their work in the morning? Driver shift lengths, their break, how long do they spend on break? And then we've also got time window flexibilities. So you're all going to have deliveries that may or may not involve time windows. So a customer wants a delivery before 10 a.m. or between 10 and 12, in which case here it's specifying, well, how many minutes can you be late to achieve efficiency? So setting it to 0 means that you're going to hit all of those time windows. So we've got our data on the left. I've got all of the system. It's very simple. We click on a button, select the depot that I'm planning for, the date range that I'm planning, and we then click proceed. The system will then take all of that data, all of the parameters that are set in the system, so things like vehicle capacities, driver's hours, customer time windows, drop times, and then plan all of your routes for you efficiently. Now, typically it takes around about 20 to 30 seconds for it to generate routes. Higher volumes of orders could take 1 or 2 minutes, but within a couple of minutes, it should generate all the routes that probably take you a long time within the day. So if I now just get rid of my drivers and show you the routes that have been generated, so you can now see that the jobs have now disappeared from the left. It's now created, I think it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 routes in the middle, each for my vehicle registration. So at a glance, it's showing me the driver's run time. It's showing me the distance they're traveling, the number of drops that are on those vehicles, and most importantly, the capacity. So how much can I physically fit on? So when I hover over it, it shows you the total vehicle capacity and the total weight that's on there. Now, with any of these routes, I could click on them to look at the detail. So you can see here, if I just drag this over, and it says, if your driver was to leave the depot at 7 o'clock in the morning, he would get to his first drop at 7:07, which took a 7-minute drive time, and then drop 1 to drop 2, 7:15, 7:46, 8:02, and so on until he returns back to the depot at 11:48. What you could then do is PPG, where am I? This one here. You could then plot that on a map and then add in the job path, so you can see exactly what the system's done automatically. So you can see here, drop 1 and 2 are pretty much on top of each other. Then it's gone 3, 4, 5, worked its way down the country, and then essentially worked its way back. And now you could look at any one of those routes individually if you want to, just by clicking on them. Or what you could do at the end of the day is you could go into run comparison mode and then actually add them all on the map at the same time. So from a system perspective, you could say, right, the system's planning my routes. I then want to look top down and actually see, well, actually, do I need to make any manual adjustments and do it from the map accordingly? So what then happens is if I just switch back into single run mode, and if I send this top one here, FDF, I'm now going to allocate that to a driver. So driver 1, I'm then going to release that to his handheld device. Okay, and that should be good to go. So the next important part about Podfather is ETA notifications. So what can happen is when the driver logs in a second, we can then send out ETA notifications to all of the drops within that run. So I've got some preset ones up here, but essentially we can take the tracking information from the driver. So when the driver first logs into the handheld, he's completed his driver defect check. We can then take the GPS lat long where the driver was, and then automatically send out ETA notifications to all of your clients, giving them drop windows if you wanted to. So you can see an example here that gives the customer a 3-hour drop window. It then also gives them the ability to follow the delivery now. So when they click on that, it then takes them to live tracking, so it'll show them where the driver is in real time, where they are, and approximately how far away he is. So it gives them a live kind of experience. So cuts out the calls of your clients calling your office, chasing, where's my delivery, where's the driver, where's it up to? What we can then do is on the driver's handheld device, the driver would log in. It would then prompt him for vehicle defect checks. Now, again, these are optional. We can turn them on or off. So you can see here, it's going to prompt me for my vehicle registration. So what vehicle you're driving today. So I'm in FDF, watching mileage, your fuel gauge, and we then run through some physical checks, which are probably very similar to what you guys are using at the moment on paper. If there are any defects, clicking on defects will then prompt him to take a photograph and then obviously log that defect. So I'm just going to, mindful of time, whiz through this. Like so. Fuel cards, no, because that will take up more time if I fill that out. Put in a quick squiggle, take some photographs. So there's one of a nice rubber duck, and we then click complete. What we then do as a driver is just say, right, I'm ready to leave the depot. Now it's at this point that it would then send out the ETAs that I just discussed a minute ago. What then happens is the driver will then get the list of all of the drops that have been sent through to that handheld device. You can see on my screen now it's showing you a picture of a handheld to indicate that is now on the driver's handheld device. And the drops that are displayed on the handheld device are in exactly the same order that's been specified in the system. Now, from a driver's perspective, on the right-hand side here, you can see that it's a delivery. I can see the dates and the ETAs have been sent. I can see where I'm going from, where I'm going to. and a live status bar. So driver goes into the first drop. He gets full from and to address. And with that, we also integrate with things like Google Maps. For those of you that have vans, those that have HGVs, we integrate with Copilot for truck navigation. Everything about the job, the driver can say, right, it's arrived on site. He can then go into what it is he's actually delivering. So I'm delivering some steaks. So we say, yes, that's fine. We then get the ability to put in some notes if need be. Is the customer present? So if you press yes, it'll prompt them for the name, for the signature. And the driver can take photographs, which is obviously quite crucial at the moment. We then complete that. So that then deletes itself with the handheld device. It then comes back to the back office system instantly. The driver then goes onto his next drop, drives to the customer premises, exactly the same process again. So I've arrived on site. This time is the customer present? No. We then force a photograph when the customer's not present. And you can see that there's no option to put in the customer signature. We also have the ability to manually adjust things like items. So driver's expected to deliver 10, or in this instance, 7. So it might be that he only actually delivers 6. And then we can obviously write the reason why. And all of that's transmitted back. So if I quickly complete that one, then you can see here validation. So the driver's not signed for it himself. And we then complete that drop. Okay, so what happens in the back office is instantly, you guys, from a run management perspective, if I just do this quick refresh, you can see here that I've completed 2 or 4 drops automatically. And with those, you can see they're ticked, and we can see the exact completed time and also any statuses where things haven't been successful. In the system, we have a live POD section, which shows you a live to the minute, all the PODs coming back in with the most recent to the top. So you can see here job numbers, date it was signed for. So you can see, and I really am going very fast, 11:18 in 10 seconds. Customer, site, vehicle registration, driver. If I then click on that particular POD, it will then load up the ticket. So you can see full delivery address, everything about the job that's been passed in from NAV, item level details, the signature from the customer, what time they arrived, what time they completed. And most importantly, we can attach photographs to the POD. And then if you've got some that have discrepancies, again, we can say, actually, you were supposed to deliver 7, you actually delivered 6. This was the reason why. And again, attaching photographs to those. With all of this, we're storing the images. So you can see here the images stored in the system. We then also show you a live completed location, in which case you can go right down and see exactly where it's completed on the handheld devices. We can show you flags where quantities have been changed, so it highlights to you at a glance. That's also then going into things like dashboards within Podfather. So in real time, number of outstanding jobs, those that were complete on time in full, those that were late, those that were flagged. So the discrepancies that I just showed you there. And if there are discrepancies, you can then narrow it down and say, actually, let's interrogate those discrepancies. We then have the same stats, this time by driver. So have you got a driver that's damaging more goods than most? Look at it by depot. So if you're multi-depot, we can look top down and see how depots are performing. Most importantly, customers. So do you have a customer that isn't being looked after, in which case do you need to kind of be a bit proactive about it? Lastly, we then have the outstanding jobs board. So in real time, you get a live update in terms of what time your driver's going to get on site. Now, if you're going to miss specific drop windows, it will obviously highlight red and say you're going to miss that specific window. Now, I'm obviously playing with demo data, so there's obviously a lot of reds there, but normally that wouldn't be the case with you guys. We also have tracking. So we naturally track the smartphones that are out with the drivers, which I haven't mentioned yet. I can't show you any tracking at the moment because we're not allowed that house properly yet, but normally we'd show you a kind of snail trail in terms of where we've been, but you can see if they've done their vehicle checks, how many jobs are outstanding, the stats, what job they're currently on, where they're heading to, their speed. And then also we can add in their things like battery as well, using the handheld. So you can see there what battery percentage they've got on their devices. So in terms of Podfather, one last thing is we have a reports module. So naturally you can do things like PODs by customer, by driver, by template, by depot. We'll give you the data as one big dump out the system, and then you can run your own reports within Excel. So in terms of what I've shown you there, I've kind of gone through it very fast. Normally this would take me between 1 and 2 hours to kind of go through the detail. Mindful we're kind of short on time in terms of half an hour. I've kind of sped through it. Podfather can be integrated with Petman via our API. Again, I can go through that in detail afterwards if anybody wants to get into the kind of techie detail. We talked about the bookings coming straight in. We've gone through the route planning. We also showed vehicle checks. We've got the vehicle tracking that we discussed earlier, which is taking the GPS from the physical smartphone. So you're tracking the driver as opposed to the vehicle. So you don't need any expensive black boxes fitted into vehicles. It's all done physically by the smartphones. We have invoicing and reporting purposes, although for you guys, invoicing will normally be done within NAV. And we talked, well, we haven't talked yet in terms of benefits. You mentioned their cut costs, eradicate paper. So that's what we're all about, is eradicating the paper from the process completely. Real-time visibility, so we're tracking the physical smartphones. You get live visibility in terms of where the drivers are. Your customers are going to get live ETAs to the minute in terms of what time they're going to get on site for. And improve customer service. So something that we've also got are things like customer portals, where you can give your customers a login to a portal and they can physically log on, see all of their PODs going back 10 years. They can also see any jobs in progress and see live ETAs for those jobs as well. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the kind of session with us. I'll just check any last questions before I kind of sign off. I'm not normally used to a quiet audience. That means I've covered everything in quick succession. Okay. So what I've got here is my details at the end. I'll see if we can distribute this afterwards, and also my details. If any of you have any questions that you'd like to get back to us on in terms of finer detail integration, route planning, optimization, anything like that you want further clarity on, feel free to give me a shout. And thank you for your time today. Thank you very much.